Hey, welcome to episode 156 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos, joined by Tettles and Trell.
Yo, what's
Yo.
up?
And this week, our special guest is none other than Dorky. Hello, Dorky.
Yo, what up? It's your boy,
What up?
Dorki.
Okay, you gonna rap for us next?
Awesome. So, yeah, Dorky, world-renowned tank, high M+, etc., GG WoW content. And joining us this week is we're going to talk about mostly just the expansion launch, but also the M+ metagame that we're expecting to see once M+ comes out in a couple weeks' time. But first of all, I guess just how's everybody's launch been? How's everybody's last couple days been? Anybody been on any servers that were especially on fire?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
Probably you guys, not me.
Yeah,
Dude,
you
my,
play on Illidan?
well, I started on Illidan, right? I was leveling with others. You know, I was playing my Illidan character because it was Horde. And then, the crisis happened. So I leveled my Sargeras character afterwards, which is my DK. And while I was leveling that character, everyone was asking me, so you decided to level DK, huh? Is DK now the OP tank? And I'm like, yeah, I guess you could say that. It's the only character I can level at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dude.
and I've also been getting whatever character I've been playing is like, oh, so you think like I was leveling my paladin, it's like, oh, you think paladin's gonna be OP? And then I was leveling my druid.
Yeah.
Like it's the joys of streaming. We'll talk a little bit about which tanks we do actually think are gonna be OP later, though, of course.
Okay.
well, so Dratnos, do you think Paladin's gonna be OP?
Probably not. Probably not as much as
Probably not, huh?
yeah.
But you're leveling it. But what?
You never know. You gotta be ready for anything.
Okay.
Got to see what the game throws at you. Yeah. So the servers were in a state of disarray for the first couple days. They seem to be mostly better now. I think almost all of them.
Yeah. Area 52 is a barbecue grill. First 2 days, probably.
Yeah, that's I heard that one was bad. Tyke was only bad for the first like 3 hours, and then it was fixed. It was real bad for the first 3 hours though. It was like completely unplayable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was just an hour and then it was good, but that's just I'm on a little realm, so that's why it was fine.
I'm surprised that NA. Okay, so normally how it goes down is Europe normally gets owned and NA is normally fine because we have less players. This time NA just got completely rolled.
Yeah. Well, it launched at midnight for them, and then it launched at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever.
That's a good
in
point.
NA.
That's
like,
true.
A lot of Euros missed the launch and caught it the next morning or the next day, whereas it was like it launched and then more people got home and started logging on to play WoW in
Yeah.
NA. But yeah, so the servers were pretty bad. There was the Race to World First level 70, which was won I think by a Korean team. But that there were apparently hot fixes going out during it to nerf certain mob XP in those first couple of hours, which then has led to some discourse about people are doing that instead of fixing their servers at the time. What do you guys think about that?
Okay.
That take?
Dude, clearly those are two different teams. Like, I don't even think it's close. The people who work on server stability are clearly not the person who's going to input a variable for like mob experience. Those are definitely two different groups of people.
You
Yeah,
understand?
100%.
How could they choose to do that and a fix that will affect one person instead of simply fixing the servers and save the game for millions? Unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't believe it, man. Streamers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the streamer.
I can't believe the streamers were let off the hook.
Oh
from the-
my god! Okay, hold
So
on.
people were coming into my stream. I was on a loading screen 2 hours after the things come out. Hadn't been able to log in yet, and they were coming into my stream talking about streamer queue. It was,
Well, I mean, I got access to the secret streamer servers. Did you guys not sign up for it?
I got the
No.
client. Yeah, I got the streamer client.
not
Oh, yeah,
clouded
that's good.
enough.
Oh, I must have missed that
Yeah,
Discord notification.
pain.
Yeah.
Then there was that rare bug. There were a couple of things that have changed in the first couple of days. There was the rare bug for a few hours where you could kill rares and they'd keep dropping loot. There wasn't a loot lockout and the loot was tradable. So there were like rare killing raids. And people got some pretty good items out of that. Then Blizzard
Yep.
fixed that, and then there was some stuff flying between like Asmongold and Max about whether it was like they fixed it because of the Race to World First, and that's bad.
Dude,
Yeah.
That was funny.
Dude, okay, the fact that Here, I don't want to misrepresent what Asmongold said, but Asmongold effectively said that they fixed this because of the Race to World First and because of the filthy 1%ers. Just the concept of that being the reason that they fix mobs, elite mobs in the Azure span, not having a loot lockout, dropping epic quality items, being anywhere related to the Race to World First is ridiculous.
So I actually came home for lunch during that hour where that was a thing, where it like spread like wildfire. And I was like, oh my god, I'm actually home for one of these early exploit kind of things. And so I like didn't go do it for a second because I was like, maybe people get banned for this, because last time that happened, it was like Ivis and BFA, the world boss, and people did actually get banned for that or something for a while. But then I saw Asmongold doing it, and I was like, there's no way they're going to ban 75,000 people. So I did get a 376 weapon before it got shut off.
Holy shit!
Holy.
What a high roller! these high rollers, man.
I hate
Incredible.
cheaters.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna ban for it, particularly because so Ivis honestly was a little bit different with how Ivis went down. You had to get out of Darkshore, relog, and then join back into a group that had people that didn't have the Ivis loot lockout for you to be able to get more loot from him. Whereas this was, you were just like literally killing elites that kept spawning, and they happened to drop for some reason high eye level loot. Also, does anybody know what's the deal with like loot scaling right now? It's due to your highest in bag eye level or something, right?
Yeah,
It
so
definitely has to do with something with your eye level.
So for some reason, your your eye level is being misrepresented in game. It's being inflated. Theories are PvP scaling items or profession equipment having item levels doing something, or some combination of that, or maybe just incidentally it's happening, but people are showing up as like 30 item levels higher than they actually are, which means that the rewards that scale based off of item levels can also be giving overinflated rewards. So, and that apparently can include aiding the Accord box, all the boxes from like Dragonbane Keep, the Grand Hunts, any of that kind of stuff. Those like weekly events,
feast.
the weekly events that can generally give you like a purple item from your first due of the week, can be giving you higher eye level stuff. So, and then world quests as well. Don't know if or when that's gonna get fixed, but yeah, I don't know. I guess my main caution to people is like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff in these first 2 weeks that's gonna be like, wow, look at this thing that somebody did to get a 386 instead of a 376 or 372 in their slot coming out of this week. And like, you know, it feels important right now, but we got to remember that gear is all worse than like normal raid gear. Like compared to last season, we'd be talking about like 275 versus 265 gear, right? Which is like, okay, none of that is going to survive the first week, the first few days of the first week of actual M plus and raid being out. So it's definitely nice. Like getting those things is good. Trying to find them is good, and it'll save you a little bit of time in that first few weeks, but it is not a permanent power thing at all.
For end of dungeon rewards, you get 392s from 10s.
Yeah. And it goes up to
replace all those instantly for sure. It's just kind of like a for fun min-maxy thing, because what else are you gonna do the first 2 weeks of an expansion, you know?
Yeah, I mean it is definitely a good thing to be doing right now. It's more just like if there's something that happens that then gets fixed that you missed out on, you're not forever behind. Like you're gonna be fine. It's very temporary gear.
But I saw the streamers doing it. Those streamers were getting so much gear. How's this fair?
Yeah,
I turn on my favorite streamer, twitch.tv/dorky, and I see he's sitting in front of these rare elites, and he's farming all this loot. Clearly.
Oh no, I did not see that from Dorky TV at all. Not a single one.
I heard he
I
opened
saw
up his
that guy
secret
wasn't even
stream,
online.
twitch.tv/dorkybearz.
That's true. Maybe...
And it was happening over there. Yeah. Hidden stream.
I was actually in group with Florky of Illidan, or Florky of Sargeras.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I think the moral of the story is, though, that since all those boxes do scale with eye level, is if you're going to do a Mythic 0 clear, you should probably wait till after you're clear to open your box, just so you might get something relevant in some way.
It's not going to be relevant. It's just going to be slightly more relevant than a 360,
Slightly,
366 or whatever.
Yeah. Now we'll talk a little bit about some other. I guess that'll be kind of part of this topic as well. Like what stuff is good to be doing right now. Definitely near the top of that list is the M0 clear. It's 372 items from all the M0s. But which is like a little bit lower than you can get from some of these other sources, and even from the rares that they can drop just out in the world. But obviously, it's like an easy way to get a lot of 372s across your group. In theory, armor stacking these is good too, because personal loot trade rules still exist in this context, and so ideally, especially if you're going to do 2 weeks in a row, doing it with like a nice armor stacked group can be good, but not a big deal. Again, 372 gear will be replaced extremely quickly when the raid comes out and when M Plus comes out. But for now, that's how that's been going. How have you guys been enjoying the M0 dungeons? Anybody done a Brackentide Hollow without a disease dispel yet? I have.
That was
kind of fun.
something else.
That dungeon has multiple sources of a 40-second 40% haste reduction, massive damage disease dot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just ramps up over the 40 seconds. And yeah.
Did you know that they used to have to open 8 of the cages for the gnolls, and now they nerfed it down to 5?
I'm glad they nerfed it.
It
might actually be
8.
9.
Was it
8 or 9?
I think it was 8. I remember zoning into there and seeing the number was 5, and I was like, oh, thank God they nerfed it.
Dude,
Yeah.
There's that first cage over on the left, and it's just got like 2 or 3 fighters next to it, and you're like, oh, that's not so bad. And then every single other cage in that zone is like Mystic, War Leader, Mystic, Plague Bearer, or whatever.
Double fearing hyena.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then
that dungeon needs some work. It's almost like a mega dungeon size, but only 4 bosses, and then you have all those crazy disease mechanics and all the cages as well. It's just it's quite the journey.
I was actually wondering, like, how long of a dungeon would that be if it came out in M+.
45. I mean, dude, the travel time in that dungeon, that dungeon travel time alone has to be longer than Halls of Valor, and Halls of Valor has movement speed after every single boss.
yeah, I mean, you can mount in the entirety of this one, but yeah, it's
It's like 42 minutes right now, in my opinion.
It would be the longest dungeon of the expansion, almost certainly.
Do you guys go left or right after the first boss? Is there a meta that's been established yet, or? I've tried both and they're both bad.
Really, you go right? Every single time I did it on beta, everybody always went left.
Well, left was for the cave, because, the cool little cave you can go into. But, yeah.
What cave is there on
feel
the
like
left? What does that do?
There's a cave where you can fight these, like, special mobs that respawn and give 0 count and 0 XP. But for some reason they were there. But I mean, it was really good for the initial part of beta, so that you can test your damage and all that stuff.
Ah,
you know how
so
like
it's
during
a
beta it
target
was
dummy?
just it was like an AoE target dummy
Oh, okay.
where mobs actually hit you hard.
It's cool.
That's cool. Yeah. I was like, oh, a nice cave with mobs that don't give count and infinitely respawn.
Yep, and they have no mechanic.
What a great mob.
That sounds exactly
we're
like
just
what we
having a
pull in M+.
blast
Yeah.
Yep.
I do think that the dungeon. I think that dungeon can be fixed. Like, realistically, that dungeon and Halls of Effusion do not bode well for Season 2, right? Just because of how they currently look. Now, I think that they need to do a lot of... In Brackentide Hollow, they need to do a lot of, like, trash redesign. Particularly around the disease dispels. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, there are those cauldrons that you can use with someone... As long as someone has alchemy at 25... The whole group can get those self-dispels from the cauldrons everywhere, but still, like, I think that's not enough. Just thinking through, like, where all the cauldrons are and how often you get the disease from those totems that drop.
Dude, if alchemy is mandatory too, that's also so annoying.
Well, alchemy is kind of mandatory-ish for power already.
If you really so basically, if you really care, alchemy could be seen as mandatory because it gives you slightly bonus. Like, they give you a little bit HP back on your damage potions and your health potions.
Yeah,
so...
it's whenever you drink a potion, you get 15% move speed buff for 10 seconds, and you heal for like 30k or something as well. Which, I mean, it's not much, but none of the other professions have anything like that.
It's mandatory, but it's like. I mean, you could get away with not having it, is how I kind of see it. But yeah,
right,
sure.
yeah. But like, what I'm saying is, like, you probably are going to have an alchemy 25 in your group, right? Like, the challenge is going to be when you get to Court of Stars and somebody has to drop alchemy or whatever, so that you get coverage in that dungeon.
Fair.
Yeah, which I guess Court of Stars and Brackentide are in different seasons as well. So,
I thought the Cauldron Dispel was only on one person. Is it actually on everybody?
No, so the alchemist opens the cauldron, and then everyone can grab like a swig once they open it.
Yeah, I've done that dungeon without that and without a disease spell, and it is very very painful. Which I get that it's less painful with those things, but still, I do not like that dungeon. Dungeon is
Yeah, Halls of
annoying.
Infusions are rough too, though. The constant roots on the tank. Oh my! I don't even want to tank that dungeon. That's just
Even demoralizing shouts too. There are
Yeah,
so many
that
of
too.
those.
Why?
Ugh.
Why do they put like the whole like first section has like 5 or 6 mobs that do demo shout? Why do they add so many of them?
Yeah. And the later parts are also just as awful. Like the whole area of the dragons and stuff. I'm not even sure what they do exactly, but there's like so much stuff going on.
Yeah,
yeah.
every mob there feels like it has like 2 dangerous mechanics.
No, I mean, so then the other 2 dungeons for season 2 are like Neltharis and Ultiman, which I don't think are particularly bad compared to Halls of Infusion and Brackentide, but like
It's still, yeah, it's not exactly what we wish for.
they're not going to have like a full beta cycle to test and revamp these dungeons realistically either, right?
That's the biggest concern that I've had, and same with like Growl. I've talked with Growl a lot about this, because like we're the ones out here doing beta all day, trying to give as much feedback as possible. Like I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys have seen my streams. During every single beta weekend, we were playing at least 12 hours a day. We've been going anywhere between 12 and like 16 hours a day, just like spamming these M plus dungeons, trying to give them feedback, trying to quote unquote master these dungeons. But like that's not happening on PTR.
No, definitely not.
I mean,
They're
all 4
gonna
of
get
us,
like 1/10 of the feedback as they got for these dungeons.
I mean, all 4 of
feel
us are probably the most hardcore of PTR testers, and you know what we do? We go into every single dungeon one time, and we give feedback on immediately what we see that is wrong, and then we never go back into PTR dungeons again.
Yeah, PTR dungeon spamming is a lot less of a thing than beta dungeon spamming for sure.
Well, it's also because we're in the middle of the season when
Yeah.
it's season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a normal length season, we're not going to want to step away from the live version of the game to go test PTR.
Yep.
In terms of the season 1 dungeons, have you guys been feeling? Obviously, like we've talked about them already in previous episodes from beta, but like Algathar Academy, not good offensive, Ruby Life Pools, and God, what's the Azure Vault? Have those been treating you guys in M0s?
I mean, I think Azure Vault and Knockhood still have the exact same issues that we've been talking about for a while, where it's like, Azure Vault, like the trash mechanics just make that dungeon unbelievably unfun from my perspective. Just like the stuff at the very beginning, including like the petrify mobs, are all really annoying, and then like the swirlies on the ring trash, it's all really bad. The Knockhood, I think the burial grounds trash in Knockhood is like really bad still.
I think Azure Vault's actually decent now. They just nerfed the first flower trash by like 50% finally after beta's over. But
God bless.
the swirlies on the ring area, I agree. Those still need some work. You like can barely tell where they're gonna land, and they will kill you. And if they don't kill you, they disorient you. So it's like
I
okay.
mean, there's also like mechanics that put swirlies on players while you also have the haste circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the amount of like the amount of different colors they use in there is like there's light blue, dark blue, and purple, and that's the only colors in that area. Yeah.
I think Naku, obviously we talk about this a lot, but it just has so many mechanics. It's like everyone making content on that dungeon is like, man, this is taking me twice as long to do this dungeon than any other dungeon, just to list out every single thing that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but otherwise,
speaking of which,
sorry,
go ahead. I was gonna say, Growl released his new non-code video today, and it was quite a bit longer than his other videos.
Oh, you don't say.
Oh well,
Yeah.
let me take a look. Let's see.
I bet his other videos 20 minutes. I bet that one 1 hour.
No,
Oh no, he kept
offensive.
them all really short.
9 minutes 54 seconds.
think the
Azure
other
Vault
was, like, 5
6
minutes.
minutes. Algathar Academy 6 minutes. Ruby Life Pool 6 minutes. Yeah, so it's 50% longer than the other dungeons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just doing overviews. I think, but still,
Yeah.
like that just shows you the comparison. And I think between the 4 Dragonflight dungeons that are going to be in season 1, compared to each other, they're kind of balanced now. Maybe Noggood's a little bit harder still, but when we see them next to the old dungeons being brought back, it's going to be like, oh, okay, these just have a million mechanics compared to the old dungeons.
I do think that Algathar Academy is like the best dungeon probably of the expansion. It's definitely the best dungeon of like Dragonflight dungeons, and I I wouldn't be shocked if they don't bring back one of the long-term banger dungeons if that doesn't go down as the best dungeon of the expansion as well. Like that dungeon is really good in my opinion.
I mean, it's really evident. You look at every single beta stream. What are they in? They're in Algafar's Academy. You're in
Yeah.
LFG trying to pug some beta keys. What keys are they looking for? It's just Algafar's Academy.
I mean, pacing of it is
Mhm.
really good. The differences between trash design in there also feels fairly solid. There's some stuff that's kind of annoying. Like I don't like Croth. I think Croth is a problematic boss. But overall, I think the rest of the dungeon is like really good.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
I
And
think
it's because not every single pull is just riddled with things that have to be done or you die. Because like there's a couple pulls like that, like the Surger mobs and the scepters and the axes, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's like 2 pulls that are like that. And the rest of the dungeon is just kind of like do one or 2 important things and you're good. And
Speaking
that's
of,
how
okay.
that's how all the old dungeons are too, which is why all like when you look at these side by side, people are gonna more likely run the old ones rather than the Dragonflight dungeons, except for Algathar.
Yeah, I think Alcathar's likely to be the like new, if somebody in your group has this key, it's the weekly 20 or whatever you'll be running. Um, okay, brief detour as well. I just want to mention anybody that is looking for good content because we're talking about Growl's dungeon guides. He's also got healer guides up on his channel, but also Dorky, you've been doing like 5-minute tank guides for the different tank specs as well that have been like really, I'd say, good and concise for people picking up or like wanting to take a tank that they played a little bit in Shadowlands or BFA into Dragonflight. So people should definitely go check that out if they're looking for like M+ guides for any characters.
yeah, I plan on doing a whole lot more tank content too for that type of stuff. I know
Okay,
Trell has been doing a lot of those too. I saw some of Trell's video. I am trying to
Oh yeah,
take some inspiration from doing your little what do you call it? Dungeon walkthrough thing with the
walkthroughs. Yeah,
yeah with the drawings and stuff. I thought that was really cool. I was planning on stealing that idea from you.
yeah.
Thanks.
It's funny. It's like it makes it into like a football play kind of thing, kind of like they do for
Yeah,
MPI recaps and all that. But I just like
yeah, I
found the
like that a
software
lot.
called Epic Pen a couple of years ago, and it's free and you can just highlight whatever you want on the screen. It's fun.
that's cool. Yeah, I was actually I was watching the Nokud one, which is like an hour. The other dungeons are 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, I think like Temple of the Jade Serpent took me 30 minutes to do, and then Knocked literally took an hour, and I was like speed running it.
Yeah.
Speed running it, by the way.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about things that are worth doing or like what everybody's doing or getting gear from over this first week and next week as well. Which I think the TLDR here is there's not too much to do. There's the Sparks of Ingenuity resource that you're getting from the end game campaign thing, which currently it's actually on alts. You seem to have to do like the Thaldraszus zone quests to be able to get to that on your alts as well, which hopefully changes. But right now that seems to be the case for if you want those sparks on your alts as well. But besides that, then it's just a question of like getting some gear or professions and reputations and stuff. So I don't know how much you guys are like choosing to do like a bunch of alts and just M0s on all your alts, or investing in doing time of doing professions or reputations. Like what are you guys choosing to split your time like between those things?
Well, I'm just doing professions basically on my main, and M0s on my alts and main, of course. But I'm only really doing professions on my main because I don't know a ton about it, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Maybe I'll expand into an alt if I figure it out in time on my main. I don't know. Are you doing it any differently than that?
For me, my guild has some people assigned to do a decent amount of our profession stuff in regards to like work orders and making sure that we have high quality crafts for some of our important gear. I fortunately am not one of those people, so I will be herbing as I please and then grinding alchemy just to make sure that I have like the bonuses from alchemy. And then that's basically all I'm doing. Then for my alts, I can basically do whatever I want on my alts. My alts don't really matter to the grand scheme of professions. I just make sure that I'm doing like the Threads of Fate, Spark of Ingenuity thing. I need to make sure that I get Primal Chaos. I really want to make sure that I get like 160 Primal Chaos on my alt before the season comes out, and then just a decent
Oh yeah,
amount of
what
Primal
are you
Chaos
gonna
on
buy
me.
with it?
I think you just want it for like work ordering stuff, don't you?
Yeah, so if you want to get crafted mythic or heroic gear, Primal Chaos is one of the reagents, but you need to combine the Primal Chaos with stuff that drops from mythic raid bosses or plus 16 or higher dungeons in order to get mythic crafted pieces. So if you want that on your alt, you're going to have to do high key on your alt as well.
I've also been doing heroic dungeons. So basically, I'm like healing or tanking heroic dungeons every single time I see the bag available because I want augment runes.
Okay.
Oh, true. I forgot about those.
They're, how expensive are they on your server?
500 gold a piece.
Okay.
Right now, you get like between 2 and 4 augment runes per bag. So.
Okay, so you're doing heroic dungeons for 1 to 2,000
I currently
gold
have
extra each?
25 augment runes.
Wow.
Bad.
Wow. How about reps? I've been doing a lot of the renowned stuff because there's just some random 376 and then 389 gear deeper into the renowned tracks. So I already started getting got some 376 boots on now from that. I got some new stuff coming soon, but also recipes to be able to make like the alchemy trinket and stuff from that track.
Where is it?
Well,
Where's
you don't
the
need to. I
alchemy
mean, again,
trinket
you'd work order somebody else's, but there's one from Maruk Centaur and there's one from Valdrakken Accord.
God damn it!
One
I need to do it.
One of them makes it. Well, one of them is slightly better than the other because one of them just extends your file duration, but then the other one makes your combat pot cooldown get slightly shorter. Which I don't know if you're ever gonna get an extra pot out of that, but maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where that I remember seeing that bonus somewhere, and I hadn't seen it in forever. But I guess it's the Alchemist Stone, huh?
Yeah, and you don't need to be an alchemist to make this as well. You can work order it, but the thing like what Tuttles is talking about assigning people in your guild to do it is in order to get the like guaranteed best eye level versions of these crafts, especially when you're making your like heroic or mythic eye level one, you do want somebody who's specialized enough to like use the finishing reagents in their crafts. And so having that be somebody in guild is definitely a lot of a safer way to make sure that it's all done correctly.
In addition to that, we want people to have like level 3 quality belt or level 3 quality bracers for the embellished items as well, or like the necks from or like the necks and stuff like that. So we really want the high quality stuff as well, the high quality gear on, or like the weapon. I think the weapon is like something that we're all looking at as well, because basically early on it seems like the weapon doesn't scale as good as like some of the other things do late game, but getting a high eye level weapon so early and just burning your double creation sparks on it seems like it's going to be decent value, but we want that to be at quality 3, right?
Yeah.
And you have to
yeah.
you have to craft a lot of quality 1 and quality 2, so you have people who are specializing in those pieces, which is so fucking stupid.
Yeah, the sparks, it costs 2 of them to make your two-hander, and you'll have 2 sparks on December 13th, and then you'll get another one on like December 24th or something. So, or December 26th or something. So,
but just completely anecdotally looking at it for Moonkin, it looked like the weapon was kind of close. Okay, so it seemed like it was behind some of the other options, some of the other like 2-slot options. But if you get a weapon, like if you just get a weapon early, it's so much better. And then like it doesn't really matter because it's like so close. And even the weapon is like, at least for Moonkin, the best in slot single target thing. And it falls off a little bit on AoE, but like not enough to where you're upset to have a crafted weapon.
Yeah, and you also want to, ideally in a guild, you want to assign to make sure that like you don't want everybody to get a weapon, right? Because you want to have somebody who will soak the good mythic staff drops or whatever that the raid has, right?
I heard you have friend of the show Corey assigned some profession stuff.
Yeah, we have we've been figuring out how we want everything covered. Yeah. It's been you have all of this week to get your profession weeklies done as well. So decisions, you still have a couple of days to get this all sorted out for yourself or your guild. It is definitely an intimidating system, though.
I heard they disabled the alchemy thing.
Yeah, they did that right.
Yeah.
Like I was mid doing that spell, and then I pressed it again, and it didn't work. I was like, "There's no it didn't
the
blow up, there's
experimentation."
no
So
cooldown.
you could relog to reset your experimentation cooldown.
Yeah.
Not cool. Like, because like whenever it exploded, you wouldn't be able to do it again for the next 4 hours, but you could just relog and it would clear it. And they fixed that.
Yeah.
Well, they fixed it by disabling it.
Yeah. I guess that's what they've been doing, right? Like they've been just turning something off, fixing it, and then turning it back on again whenever they find something broken. Okay, another thing to talk about, there's war mode gear. If you do war mode and you get the bloody tokens from killing players, you don't get very much, but you get a little. But opening the war supply crates, killing assassins, and doing the world quests that give bloody tokens, that can get you 366 gear from the PvP vendor very easily. And it doesn't cost very much bloody tokens for each of these pieces of gear. And there's a set bonus associated with them as well. The 2-piece is an extra 105 versatility. So at least having 2 of these pieces on is probably BIS for the time being until you're able to get, like 380 plus gear. So that's something to, if you just pop on war mode and then you don't even have to ever fight anybody. Just like whenever a war supply crate drops in your zone, you can go look at it and see if it's going to be uncontested. And if it is, then, yoink.
What else PvP gear is there? I've heard there's also PvP gear you can get for level.
So the 366 war mode gear can actually be upgraded to 385 using trophies of strife, which don't seem to be available yet, but maybe come from like war mode weekly quests that maybe start either next week or the week after. And then there's also conquest and heroic or conquest and honor gear, which all the PvP gear like increases eye level in PvP, but I think the conquest gear as well could be reasonably good short term in PvE as well. But the thing is that you can't earn conquest until the raid opens up and M+ opens up, and then there's no way that that's like better use of time than M+ and PvE like raid. So at least from where I'm sitting, I don't think it's a arena season at all for PvEers. But the war mode stuff right now does seem good.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
There's also the 389 ring.
Yes.
That Tuttle's made a video about, and everybody knew within an hour.
Yeah. Tuttles, you want to talk about your cool discovery?
So in top of Azure Span, there's like a Cobalt assembly rep. Dude, they already hotfixed part of it. It's like really, really annoying now. Top of Azure Span, there's like a rep. It's called Cobalt assembly rep, and you basically just kill these mobs, and they drop rep for the Cobalt assembly. You have to loot them to get it though. And then you're able to buy a 389 eye level ring once you get to level 4. The ring doesn't show up on like the Cobalt Assembly Quartermaster until you get to level 4, but like it's still nice to get. It seems like the proc is like either not that great and it doesn't work for melee for damage. I don't think the ring is in particular very strong. However, it's one of those situations where it allows you to trade M0 like rings to other players, which can be pretty good.
It also just bumps your eye level up more so than any other item would at the time being. Yeah. And also the tank ring is apparently really good. The shield on it procs pretty well.
Yeah, you can also there's a way that you can increase the amount of rep that you're gaining from the Cobalt Assembly as well. I think once you're at like level 2 with the Cobalt Assembly, you can
there's a tech tree that you can use your Dragon Isle supplies to research. Yeah.
Do you guys like how that was like a better Torghast, and we only spent like 30 minutes there, and then we were done with it forever?
Yeah. God, I miss Torghast so much.
Dude, yeah, it feels like it's been so long.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, besides that, there isn't really anything super pressing to do these first 2 weeks. So there's rares you can kill. There's rares you can kill in the Azure Span for tradable good loot. I'm not going to say which rare it is or which item it is, but there is an item right now that instead of having stamina on it, has extra crit. And that thing is really good. So that's a fun little secret to go and kill rares and see if you can get that item. If you're a leather wearer, you can get that. That belt would be BIS up through about item level 440, I think, because it has so much extra secondary stats instead of stamina. So
what? Okay, this game, I've been really, really enjoying Dragonflight so far, but my god, they've had some really jank shit happen.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the item's name, not going to say the rare's name, just saying there's a cool item out there that will probably not continue to have a secondary instead of stamina on it.
I can't believe you're hiding all these secrets.
Yeah, also
these streamers, man.
Dragonflight is not about the boys at all.
Yeah. And then that's it. Alts and stuff, and whatever you want, doing the renowned. There's a lot of content, but none of it rewards vital player power or anything. There's nothing like Torghast, Soul Ash, or anything like that to be doing. So
yeah, or like sockets or Stygia or anything.
Yeah, right. Sockets, like, because we were in the maw at this time last expansion because sockets would be good in 6 weeks. There's like absolutely nothing you can be doing now that will be good in 6 weeks. Like nothing at all like that.
Yeah, it's nice. You don't have to go buy legendary crafting stuff. You don't have to go run Torghast or do the Maw. It's nice.
Yeah, if you are,
that is something I want to talk about.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I wonder how people are gonna remember this expansion, because to a lot of people that is considered content, and would people just see this would people see this expansion as a lack of content? I know a lot of us are like loving this, but I'm sure there's also a lot of people who just log in and they're like, what do I do now after just playing for a couple hours?
I mean, I view it as like you're allowed to go. There's nothing that's mandatory that you have to do. You can go level alts or whatever, and the real content comes out in 2 weeks, right? I view this as like a buffer time where you're able to go and kind of just you level up your professions. I mean, professions as a system, that is enough content for one player to do all day if they really want to. Professions are insane right now too.
Yeah, I mean, and there's dragon riding races, there's world quests, there's the renown track that unlocks, like, renowns 5 through 10 for most major factions are giving you a bunch of new world quests and content as well. Now, none of that gives you power like Torghast did, right? So it's not on your like daily checklist of things you have to do. And so for players that like logged into WoW to clear out their daily checklist and got a good feeling out of doing that, then yeah, the daily checklist is very light this expansion. But unlike WoD, which was the last time there wasn't actually important like power stuff to be doing, right? This time around, there is fun stuff you can be doing. There's content. Like the Dragon Isles are packed full of quests and stuff. So I hope that there's not too many people that end up not liking it this way, because I definitely prefer it this way too. But I am a little bit worried, like you, Dorky, that there will be some people that are like, what do I have to
do?
The
reverse would be Legion in the beginning, right? You guys remember how in the beginning of Legion, people were just like playing the hell out of the game?
Yeah.
I do remember people saying like the very first month was super fun, but then like when second and third month hit, people started to feel, oh, this is a little bit too much.
I just remember the first month of Legion being like hell, because you felt like you were required to farm every single world quest, do AP swoops and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was good though if you wanted to be able to log in and always have something to do to make your character stronger, right? Like Legion, that was always possible. Whereas in Dragonflight, like, I mean, there kind of is, right? Like going around and killing every rare that's available. Like those rares are dropping, 376 gear. Go get it. That'll make your guy better. But it's definitely not the same as like AP being forever valuable.
I mean, AP was like a permanent ahead bonus,
Well, in addition to that, the world quest respawned every
that
8
got
hours.
real bad, real fast.
I mean, the world quests respawned every 8 hours, and you'd have to do like new AP world quests, and so like,
I remember that.
Set alarms to wake up in the middle of the night to fucking do world quests. Like,
Greymane's forces hold this Warden Tower.
How did it take them 3 expansions to make world quests bi-weekly instead of 8 hours? Like, that is an obvious, much better way to do it, in my opinion.
Well, modular design and whatever they had to say about it.
I mean, I think that when Ian said it, if you haven't watched the video with Ian and Preach released like an hour-long video whenever we went to LA and had interviews with all the devs and stuff like that. I would recommend going and watching it firsthand. But like, just to paraphrase, basically what Ian said is like he wants to remove the sense of where you were like super, like you get out, like you're having dinner with friends on Monday night, and then once you get home and it's like 9 o'clock and you sit there and you're like, oh my god, I have chores to do before I can go to bed. He's like, I don't want that feeling to exist anymore. And I was like, oh, thank God this guy gets me.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of content though, like going back to what we were saying about will this feel like there's not much content? I feel like there's so much to do. We didn't even talk about getting the Dragon Cliffs. Like obviously we all did that super fast, I'm sure, but I think the average player, kind of gets them slowly as they go and then maybe finishes them up within 4 or 5 days of leveling.
Oh, definitely.
I think that was super fun.
Do that as soon as if you're listening to this, like, and you're ever having trouble dragon riding, you ever feel like dragon riding is like inefficient or slow or whatever, get all the dragon glyphs, because they are huge. Like the one that makes you get 1 vigor every 5 seconds while you're above vigor speed is really, really
GG.
good. Yeah, that thing is
Did-
life changing.
Did you guys get the Apex glyph before you had all the talents done, or after? The like really really high up
Yeah,
one.
the one in the top of Thaldras's.
Yeah, I did that with like almost no talents, and it like taught
I
me
did
how
that
to
with-
Dragon Red.
I did
It's
that with
really-
very few talents, and I was annoyed.
That was like sit on a little cliff halfway up, waiting for Vigor Simulator.
Yep.
Well, I did it in like 2 flights, but it took me like 10 minutes to gain the altitude because like you could wait on the side of the cliff, but if you did it right, you could still kind of slowly gain altitude even with no talents. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
There is this week or for dragon riding. I don't know if you guys know about it. It's called
Yeah,
the
we should
Dragon
share that.
Riding UI.
Yeah.
It is
I
super
think
it's
useful.
This
Real
can be
good.
your tip of the week if you want, Dorky, because we can move into that right now. It's a good
Sure.
a good one. So this is the Darien Dragon Riding UI, right? That puts it on your screen. You get like it'll show you if you're over or under the vigor gain threshold, and it'll show you if your momentum is like positive or negative. And yeah, this replaces the like default vigor bar, but definitely something worth looking at. And then there's a further like modification of this. If you just search dragon riding on the Wago site, you'll find a couple of weak auras that you can pick and choose between, but that one's the one that you'll see a lot of people using. Yeah, good call. I switched over to that myself, and like actually being able to see when you're like just at or just below the vigor gaining threshold is pretty valuable.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the really good part about it. Is it'll just tell you when you're gonna not run out of vigor while you're flying.
All right, my tip of the week is it's a new expansion, and so it's time to set your Hearthstone in a new location. And it's good time, therefore, for me to remind you of an important functionality of how Hearthstones work. When you set your Hearthstone, it will remember your exact position and facing. So, as you set your Hearthstone in potentially Valdrakken, where it's going to be for the next 2 years, consider positioning yourself right as far away from the innkeeper towards the door as you can, and facing directly out of the door, so that every time you hearth, that's where you'll be. And you'll save yourself fractions of a second every time you hearth for the rest of your life. That's big gains. Or you could even set your hearth in the secret inn in Valdrakken, which does exist. There's a secret inn in Valdrakken.
How the fuck did you reuse this tip of the week?
It's a good tip. It's important. People got to remember.
Pretty good tip.
Troll, what
Do
is your tip
not-
of the week?
do
It was,
not
dude. It was
help.
relevant. Do you remember? It was relevant when you were hearthing out of Motherload
Motherload?
mid dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was. You're right.
yeah, that was
Oh
that.
my
Your
God.
timer was affected by how good of a Hearthstone setter you
Yep.
were. I'm just, these are important mechanical
Oh,
micro
shit.
gameplay. All right, Troll, what is your tip of the week?
My tip is for professions. So there to make your life easier when you're learning through the professions, there's a couple filters at the top like by the search bar, and you can search for unlearned recipes only. So you can just like see where all the recipes come from. You can like scroll over them and see if they come from a vendor, if they drop from a boss or something. And then you can also filter by first craft bonuses, which is now a thing. And it's super important to craft everything you learn one time at least, because it gives you several pretty big rewards and permanent knowledge for your profession.
Yeah,
And you can also track recipes from your profession tab. I didn't know that until yesterday. Maybe that's been a thing for a long time, but you can track them so that you can go to the auction house without having the menu up and see like all the list of ingredients that you need and just buy them all in one go and all that.
wow, it like auto puts
Oh,
up
wait,
all
actually-
the ingredients you need.
I didn't know that.
Well, it just shows it on your screen, so you can like look at it directly
Okay.
and say, "Oh, I need these 3 things for this recipe. I'll just buy these," instead
That's
of
cool.
like having to remember the names.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Tracks it like a quest. Okay.
Hmm.
All right, Titles, what is your tip of the week?
Okay, so if you're for some reason out of vigor because you didn't, because for whatever reason, you can actually, if you dismount and then log out of the game, it completely resets your vigor all the way to full.
That's
Wow, that is a hack. I hope
That is
they
a
ban for
hack.
this.
Shut
Yeah.
the hell up.
a hack. Yup.
These streamers.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
What's the default vigor recharge? 30 seconds, I think,
I think.
until you get talents.
Yeah, that sounds like it. It's definitely very slow.
So logging out for 20 seconds is definitely worth it. You can get all 3 back if you're
Yeah.
talentless. Nice.
Or if you're Volpera, you can set your camp. Doesn't that make a rested zone? Can you log out there insta?
Yeah.
That's big game.
But then you're a
Volpera's a
Volpera.
hack.
But then
True.
you're a Volpera.
That's a good point. Good point. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the M plus metagame as we move. Looking forward to M plus season 1 coming up soon, because yeah, obviously, like, we'll talk more about that once it actually comes out. But we still have a reasonably good idea from beta. There's not been any tuning yet between the last build of beta and now, right? So we have.
Well, there's
still...
been some bug fixes, so that's some.
True.
I feel like those are some pretty big deal.
Yeah. And actually,
for
a
some
lot
of
of
the big
specs, we're still sitting on a lot of bugs, right?
Yeah, Prop Paladin was a big one. Prop Paladin, they got a bunch of fixes.
Oh, they did. Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah,
about
so Sentinel is actually like fully functional now, so that's nice. That'll
Yes,
help
good.
Paladin quite a bit.
That talent looked quite good as well. That's the one that replaces your like wings with a defensive cooldown, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, you know what
Yeah,
else is
it's
fixed?
insane.
Protection Warriors shield specialization. Because I mean, Prot Warriors were kind of squishy and they were having a hard time in beta. But now with this fix, they will block more damage.
Are you kidding me? They got buffed.
yeah.
Oh my god, Pro Warrior is gonna be wild.
Log on the Pro Warrior Trail.
Trelskior.
Windwalker got fixed as well, so there's a touch of death bug for a long time on beta where you actually didn't want to take one of the touch of death talents, and it would, if you took it, it would actually decrease your AoE Todd damage by a lot.
Oh yeah, that's the big one.
But that's fixed now, so you can't do full execute Todds in AoE anymore. It's just like 35% value instead of 100%.
Yeah, I've heard.
So let's talk a little bit about how we feel the season's going to look in terms of like, let's start with tanks, because I think an important question is going to be how much is the dungeon going to be about. We already know that there's going to be like a lot of rot damage for the DPS. We'll talk more about that in the healer and DPS sections. But for the tanks, how much do you guys expect that it's going to be about tank survivability versus tank damage, or do we really need a tank that can do both? And how does that affect which tanks are going to be potentially the best picks this season? Or is it going to be a case of like every different type of thing is viable and different groups will be like built differently if they're trying to leverage a damage tank versus a survivability tank?
So there is one really weird thing at the moment. It's the damage profile in these dungeons are really different. They're completely inconsistent, and I think that's partially because of the nature of having old dungeons. Temple, for example, Temple of the Jade Serpent. That dungeon sucks for a lot of tanks, especially a tank like Prot Warrior. So damage might actually, like, survivability might actually be an issue. You might need tanks that are consistent across the board. If you're playing a tank like Brewmaster, that might struggle a lot with magic damage, or even Bear Tank and Prot Warrior to some extent. Some of these dungeons are just not it. I don't know if you guys have seen the numbers yet, but according to one of my Blood Decay buddies, we went from having 15 to 20% average magic damage taken in the last two expansions to anywhere between
50?
anywhere between 20 to 50. That's the swing that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's
Depending on the
insane.
dungeon, right? Yeah.
Like
so much
Ruby
magic,
Life
man.
Pools. Ruby Life Pools is almost exclusively magic damage. I wouldn't say exclusive, but like it's 50% magic damage, which is
Pretty much
actually
everything you
absurd.
fight in there is like multiple tank buster magic hits at the same time. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so against that's like Blood Decay is really strong in that sort of situation, right?
Yeah, or like Demon
Yeah.
Hunter.
How about Prot Paladin? How do you feel about playing a Prot Paladin, especially 40% buff to Word of Glory recently? That counteracts the 40% health change a little while ago. Plus off healing for your DPS that are rotting down.
How do you feel
So I
about
think-
Pally? I'm curious, Dorky.
So I think one really big thing with Paladin is the interrupts they have. Like, I'm sure you guys have noticed in these dungeons, there are so many kicks required. Most of these dungeons have multiple
Yeah.
mobs that require at least 2 kicks. Yeah, that's why Tettles with your Boomkin, I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
Dude,
Well, to be fair, Beam's pretty good of a utility, though.
it
They can't
seems
take that.
like it seems like it depends on the dungeon, like how many kicks are actually required. Like some of the dungeons are like
Yeah.
wildly inconsistent. Like Jade Serpent does not have any. Okay, Jade Serpent does have some, but it's not like Ruby Life.
It's nothing too crazy.
Fucking kicks.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that utility going for it, and I do think Prot Paladin is actually surprisingly good. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Prot Paladin quite a bit. Is it gonna be the best tank? Probably not, but I do think it's really good. Also, I've heard from a specific prop paladin player, Drogo of NA.
Oh no.
Also, also Yoda. They are really high on the prop paladin copium. They think it's S tier. That's how far they're putting it. They think
Really?
it's like
Wow.
one of the best tanks right now.
What?
How is it mitigation wise in your opinion? Because that's where I get mixed reports from pretty much anyone that plays.
It's
Pally.
really good. Well, the thing is, Paladin, when you just play it, it doesn't feel very tanky. But the thing is, Paladins have infinite defenses right now. Like,
That's
if you look at what
true.
they have,
There are a lot.
they have Sentinel, which is the most absurd thing ever. It's a 30% DR and 30% max HP for 30 seconds, and it's like a 1 minute cooldown. Then you have Ardent Defender, that's also less than a minute CD. You've got Eye of Tyr, that's less than a minute CD, or it's a minute CD. You've got Guardians of Ancient Kings on a 2-minute-ish CD. A 45-second Guardian proc from Gift of the Golden Voucher.
True.
And Bubble Taunt. Bubble Taunt is also as short as 2 minutes because you have so many different whatchamacallit.
Cooldown reduction.
You have so many
Are
CDR
you-
talents.
Yeah.
Are you keeping Soda up, Shield of the Righteous up, pretty much full time?
Yeah, it's pretty chill.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
just depends on wings. You have to like play around wings a lot.
see, that would check all the boxes for me. Like, I think anyone that plays multiple tanks, like if you can keep Shield of the Righteous up full time and have all those defensives, it's probably going to be in a pretty good spot. And I think its damage is still really high, right?
Yeah, well, the damage is the part that like might be a little bit worrying because when you play a defensive build like this, your damage is definitely a lot lacking compared to other
Oh.
tanks.
Yeah, when you take
Makes sense.
Sentinel, your wing
yeah.
stops being a damage increase, right? That's how
Yeah.
that works. Yeah.
Well, no, it's still a damage increase, but you lose Avenging Might,
All right,
which
the
is
crit,
very
20%
big.
crit
It's the
on it.
crit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also just like all the other talents. Like Drados, you remember during the raid testing when I would just like randomly bring my
Yeah.
prop paladin in? Yeah, and it was doing a crap ton of damage, but that's only because I was building like a glass cannon, which I don't think is gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really cool if
actual
a tank
nonsense.
has the choice of doing a shitload of damage or just being unkillable and just like they decrease as the other one goes up. I think that's perfect design because like
Well, I
some
mean-
tanks, like Brewmaster, you're pretty much just stuck in only damage talents. Like there's
Yup.
barely any defensive stuff that you can take.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
really nice thing of the talent system. But at the same time, it also sort of sucks because you do feel the effects of tuning. If they ever decide to tune around
True.
your peak damage, then your non-peak damage is gonna suck real bad.
Yeah. Then
But
I don't know,
yeah.
the other tanks, they all got stuff going for them as well, right? It's like Brewer also does a lot of damage. Warrior, Vengeance, Blood, we already talked about those as well. Like I feel like the tank balance is looking pretty. I think it's looking pretty good for M Plus in particular. I think it's going to be a cool season. I actually am genuinely not sure what's going to end up being most popular.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like this is the best tank balance that's ever been.
I think it's
Like, hands down.
I think it's solid. Yeah.
I think it seems like what was the season in BFA where there was like 5 different tanks in the top 5 for M plus at the end of the season?
Was there one of those in BFA?
Or not
Yep.
BFA of Shadowlands? Sorry.
Oh
I
yeah,
was about
that
to
was
say
season-
BFA was only Warrior.
No,
BFA
Yeah.
season 1 was DK. Yeah, but
Was that
I
season?
think it
Was that season
Shadowlands-
2?
Shadowlands season's
Shadowlands
1 or
season
Shadowlands
2,
2,
I think?
yeah, because
Two,
1
it
was
should be two.
DH. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one was DH.
Even then, it felt like there was like better tanks for most situations. But now it seems like you could reasonably play all of the tanks and have a lot of good stuff going for you.
Yeah, we'll have to see though, because when we actually get into the high keys, it might turn out that it's like, oh, actually, Prot Warrior is like 2 key levels
Now-
tankier or something. Then like, okay.
I do
Yeah.
feel like Prot Warrior and Vengeance have been the easiest tanks to play with, but that also could just be because like they're the most readily seen, so it makes sense that they're the easiest to play with, right?
Yeah, we'll have to
but
see.
again, it's like one of those things where I just like worry, like, what if Pro Warrior can't even survive a high tempo? So, like, do you just not bring a Pro Warrior to tempo
Yeah.
and you just
You could
bring it to every
'cause
other
of-
key?
I think you're right.
because the third boss of Temple of Jade Serpent, right?
Well, it's not even
Well,
just
it's
the
just the
third
whole
boss. It's also
dungeon.
second boss. Yeah, like second boss is brutal too. It's just spamming agony on your tank the entire time.
Yeah, the second boss is 100% magic damage. Does not
That
do
boss-
any
Yeah.
physical damage.
That boss is so unfun, and I still don't know what's going on
The
in that
worst
fight.
boss ever.
You have, but you have
Yeah.
spell block. You just spell block.
You need Jesus. You don't need spell block.
20 cool seconds. You know,
So, I mean,
70
that's
bad
actually a good
seconds.
point because like Prot Warrior does have all these really good options for defensive stuff too. So like spell block's huge if you can make it work there.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
just
think
not
Dork is
enough
right,
for
like-
that fight. Yeah.
when everyone's mythic geared or whatever, and they start hitting 22, 23, or whatever the threshold is, where magic damage starts just gating some tank classes from continuing. I think we'll see like maybe 3 tanks get past that or something.
I mean, if anything,
Bloody
we might even see
Revenge.
tuning. Like, because like that's another thing to consider too. Not even tank balance. Like, what if they just decide to make these dungeons a lot more friendly for some of these tanks?
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
hope so for sure.
I mean, the fact that there will be like people doing weekly 15s on a protection warrior fighting a 100% magic damage boss is going to lead to some complaints, I think.
I don't know. If there's tuning, I don't think it's going to be to make things more tank friendly, but just looking at precedents, right? Because the only time that they've ever really sweepingly changed dungeons to make them more tank friendly, it was like white swing damage in season 1 of Shadowlands, but that was like a clear issue. I don't even think that was like a question of whether or not that was a problem.
I mean, yeah, I think in this case it'll be like the first time Tyrannical Week rolls around, all these bosses are going to get damage nerfs, especially on like the magic tank damage department. And then some fortified weeks, maybe some of the trash will get nerfed one by one, but we'll see. I don't know.
There's just
Is that going to be like a "we told you so" kind of situation?
Oh yeah, we've been reporting that forever.
Yeah.
You don't say.
All right, healers. On the other hand, I feel like healer balance is looking a little bit less hot than the tank balance in M+. Seems like there's 2 pretty clear like front runners in Druid and Evoker doing good damage, and one of them having Lust, one of them having Mark of the Wild, 2 very powerful effects that your group is looking for.
Some would say that's not hot balance. Some would say that's twice as many healers as normal.
True. And then yeah, there's just a lot of like rot damage as well, so you need healers that can actually keep up through that kind of stuff in a lot of dungeons as well, right?
It seems like.
Good.
What were you say? Sorry.
I was gonna say healer balance is where I worry about the most right now. I'm not sure how it is for you guys, but like these dungeons, it just feels like everyone's just dying, and you just sort of get hard gated by some of these boss fights. Whether it was Herja before or Ruby Life Pool first boss, there were just like so many hard healer gates.
There are a lot of like heavy AoE overtime fights, and I think I kind of like that because it'll make the healers actually have to play around healing builds more so maybe, but I think you're right. It's going to be hard. Like, especially if we get stuck with another Holy Paladin situation where they're by far the best damaging healers, but they don't do any healing. That's always kind of annoying.
Well, I don't know if we're ever going to hit that. Like, before they did the 40% creature and health change, it felt like all of the healers were in kind of a spot where they were bringing like pretty interesting things, and they were able to kind of get through a lot of the mechanics with just the amount of like throughput HPS they had. And then after they made that 40% creature / damage change, it felt like Preservation Evoker and Resto Druid were the only 2 healers that could reasonably keep your group alive. Like, obviously all the healers are able to probably obviously you're gonna start running into issues at some levels, but now it seems like it just becomes so much easier with like Preservation Evoker and Resto Druid that you notice the difference.
That's what I said too. Like before the change, it was not too bad, but like now you definitely notice it.
It was noticeable to go into dungeons like Ruby Life Pools and fight a lot of these difficult bosses, like you were saying, after the change. And I'm just like, well, okay, now this is way harder.
Yeah.
All right,
I also don't know how much healer damage matters right now compared to before. Like we might just be a survival. Well, I mean, it also just happens that the healers that right now that do a lot of healing also happen to do a lot of damage. Both
with like 2 globals every
Evoker.
30 seconds as well. It's like,
Yeah,
just cast
just
your
pop
flame
off.
breath. Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Preservation is just like
very unfair.
Preservation is just like overtuned. Like straight up, like they're just overtuned, but they require some playing around. But fortunately for Preservation Evoker, in 5-mans, that's not really like you can play around Preservation Evoker very easily in 5-man.
Yeah, and like all your skills are like heal target cap to 5, which is great in 5-player content. Yeah.
They're sick.
Well,
I mean,
they're
going to be good, I think.
Yeah, the way I see it for your Preservation Evoker is I don't know how pug friendly they will be necessarily. It feels sort of like the Holy Paladin situation in season 1. You guys remember how Wrestle Shaman was still the most popular healer, but when you got to the top level, everyone was playing Holy Paladin.
Yeah,
dude,
it's true.
I see the biggest noobs playing Preservation Evoker still. Like I question whether or not they've actually healed before, or if they like, or like what's the deal? Because I understand that it's a new class, and you're gonna get some people who have like never experienced it before, but then they're just like playing really bad builds a lot of the time for Preservation, and you're like, oh please, I just want to get healed. Please heal me.
Dude, the class is 3 days old. How are there bad builds already? Filthy elitist.
Oh my! If you're
True, man, true.
if you're spamming the mushroom in my dungeon, it's just a red flag, bro. You're like, okay, well, hold on. Please press that Dream Breath button. That shit's OP.
All right. On the DPS side of things, seems like I guess we have a video about this on the GG WoW channel that you can go check out. I think that's out now. If it's not, it'll be out soon. Of
the raid side, yeah.
Yeah, I guess the M+1's coming soon. Yeah, of the like the dorky titles of me tier listing it up, but I think the TLDR of our DPS side of things is obviously in M+. The DPS balance looks like it's a little bit less tight than it is in raid, but there are a couple of the specs that look like they're gonna be really good, like Havoc, Demonology, Outlaw, that kind of stuff. I think is where we're
Havoc's insane.
Yeah.
Top to bottom feels very steep though. Like the work, like if you're playing with like a mediocre to bad spec, it is a noticeable difference than if you were playing with some of the absolute top echelon specs. It feels like.
Yeah, which hopefully is something that they'll look at, but say like stuff like marksmanship as well that are kind of in tremendous pain right now. Yeah. Also, I mean, the thing about DPS as well is that we think this season it's not just going to be how much damage you do, right, but how tanky you are against incoming damage, which stuff like Havoc, Demonology, Outlaw perform really well against that metric as well. And specs like the Hunter specs are a lot more pain against that. So I'm curious to see how much both the one shots and the heavy incoming rot damage that a lot of these dungeons have will shape what kinds of DPS you can bring, because in Shadowlands you basically got away with anything, right? You could I was a little worried about Hunter survivability a couple seasons. It was never a problem though. You could always do it.
I do see a lot of tuning happening. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they just do some sweeping changes on the DPS over these next few weeks.
Are you talking about damage, right?
Yeah. The problem is that the raid balance is I think it's always tough because if a spec is balanced in raid but unbalanced in M+, do you touch it? Do you do a balance pass? The answer has often been from Blizzard, no, in that case. So
Yep.
We'll have to see. I mean, it's especially if there's a spec that's away from the pack on the same side. Like if a spec is OP in raid and M+, or underpowered in raid and M+, then I think your chances are better. But if it's balanced in raid and unbalanced in M+, I wouldn't count on it getting changed at least for the next month or two.
I was about to say, if anything, they'll get buffed. Remember Destro getting that nice, juicy 5% buff? They hard needed that.
Yeah, Destro got buffed in April of last year or something. That was what a time to be alive.
I remember we ranked that shit pretty high in our M+ tier list, and we were like, oh, this is a trash specialist. This is probably not gonna be that great on bosses. And then they went and fucking aura buff that spec, and everybody's just like, oh my god, what are they doing?
Oh my god, indeed.
It's I don't know. It just seems to me like, so the balance seems okay. So you can run technically more compositions than you could in the last seasons of Shadowlands, but it seems like in the same front, the specs that are towards the bottom of the list of what you would invite are just really fucking bad in a lot of situations. And it's like, oh, okay, you are going to be working a lot harder to play with Hunter specs, that kind of thing. Any of the Hunter specs are just sandbags, actual weights in your dungeon.
Yeah, it's kind of concerning because almost all the range classes are underperforming in dungeons compared to the melee. But in raid, you're saying they're all pretty close on single target, right? And I think that's because of the talent system.
Yeah.
Some classes have access to very, very strong single target builds, and being able to transition that into AoE for Mythic Plus, but then some classes are very polar, one or the other.
Yeah, that question of how much AoE does your single target build do, or I guess more often how much single target does your M+ build do, is not something that seems to have been balanced for very much, but is hugely important for whether your spec's gonna be good in M+.
Yeah, so some classes and some specs, like Assassination Rogue or whatever, they have to make a decision whether or not to play for AoE or single target. And then you have fucking Havoc Demon Hunter who plays for both. You're like, okay, cool.
I mean, to
So
be
it's
fair,
like-
that's always been an issue. I remember that being
Yeah.
a very large issue in the past.
Yeah,
That's
it's always
true.
it's always been a problem. But like, it's becoming more and more of a problem as M Plus becomes, again, more like as expansions go on and M Plus becomes more relevant. Like, you can't have classes doing 2 times the amount of damage in a dungeon, like we've seen time and time again.
Yeah, like I did my first M0 clear with Windwalker double rogue group, and then I did a second clear with 2 hunters and a shaman. And the first clear was like twice as fast.
I will say that, like, if they're not balancing around like class, I don't expect them to balance around classes damage and M0s though, right? Like, obviously,
of course.
some shit's gonna be like really stupid. Like a Windwalker monk in an M0 is like probably one of the best specs in the game, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
It still scales a little bit.
We'll have to,
Yes.
again, definitely don't want to. Like, most of our thoughts here are not coming from our M0 clears, right? They're coming from our beta testing experience. But yeah,
Yeah.
You
I mean,
do
there's
start to
also the
see it in
fact
the
that
M0s. Yeah,
all the Mythic Plus testing on beta was done at like normal raid eye level or below normal, I think.
I think it's 389. Yeah,
And-
which is normal rate eye level.
Oh yeah, okay, pretty close to normal. So then, I mean, classes scale differently from each other too. So like once we're Mythic item level, it's going to look a little bit different than it is from our testing anyway.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
Good.
I just think that they really need to figure out how to balance AoE. It's a problem where their first solution for a lot of balancing is aura buffing and nerfing specs, but that's obviously not what they can do with AoE. They have to like have like intimate knowledge of how the spec functions and how to like seriously tune the spec in a way that's not going to make them ridiculous in single target, because we want them to be balanced in raid. Like, it's not nobody's like, oh yeah, you should just make this really imbalanced in raid. Nobody's really asking for that. Like, the raid balance normally for DPS is fine. It's like the M plus balance, you legitimately have specs doing twice the amount of damage of others, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
we have a few Q&A questions to get to, but first we get to thank the supporters over on the Patreon. They are Paul, What the Duck, Why Did They Make Me Murder My Duck Friends? Was this a quest? I skipped. I must have been zooming through this. I don't remember. Oh, there's a world quest actually.
It was a world
yeah.
quest today. Yeah, it was a
That
PvP
was
world quest
good.
today.
Oh, I murdered them without even questing.
Bro, you could have saved and not killed the ducks if you just instead battled it out in the combat, just dropped down the gauntlet and PvP'd.
Well, you never actually, the PvP one, you don't actually kill the ducks as well. They at like 20% health, you can mount them instead, right?
Well, I
go
think they're
friendly.
talking about the one where you pluck the feathers, but they have a chance of just attacking you.
Oh, okay, that one. Yeah, I
Oh.
see. Never Nude, Jaw, Drownus Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Chewy. Imagine not learning dragon riding yet because you're busy gathering duck feathers and the game cued you into Nako Defensive. ZivXX, Salty Senny, Necros. By the way, yeah, queuing into Nako Defensive without dragon riding can happen. You want to make sure that you have learned your dragon riding before that, before you go to Nako Defensive. There's like a Flight Master
That's
in that
funny.
dungeon, though. I think. Maybe it only spawns after you've cleared the place, but yeah.
I'm not crazy. During M plus they remove your like dragon riding proficiency for knockout, right?
Oh, do they?
No, we just didn't have any dragon riding talents on beta.
Huh. Yeah.
That's so.
So now it's just way
I'm
faster. to get
sure
to the
because
ducks.
you
Yeah.
keep your buffs during dragon riding races, so I'm sure you'll keep them in that
You used
too.
to not keep your buffs during dragon riding races.
Yeah, you used to
though.
not in early beta. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. Yeah. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. It doesn't really matter that they let you keep it during knockcode.
Sinmora, Tankdill, Nevuk, Eevee Survival Main, No Trick, I forgot I was subbed here, Dymat, Lufer, Rework Mistweaver, Duck Duck Goose, Nyx, Duck Gaming, Gallic, Crucive, Drowned Shards Abyss, Shadowlands was once before you and is now behind you, Lived, Understood, Disappointing, Like Real Life, Insanity, Xena, Rogue is now good enough for Prog, still bad enough to be sat for SLG, Bless Up, Red Color, youtube.com/workbringer, Alphabet Soup, Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming, #1 Simsky for Tralski. Lurka isn't concerned about this Winds of Winter buff because he has the wisdom to plan a trip back to Australia for the NA Winter. Milk, Sife, Pone, Windwalker Monks deal with nerfs by rolling with the punches. Due to Sims with 4-piece, Skelly will be going back to Elemental from Enhance. PI for sale, I have crafting to level. That is crafting is somewhat expensive level,
Oh my
depending on
God,
which one you're
very.
picking. Yeah. Marsh Hare, Veil Strider Svar. Patreon tip of the week: in order to min-max Court of Stars buff, reroll to a gnome holy paladin with cooking, enchanting, and one other one based on what else is in your party to get the most buffs from one character. Big Head Small
True.
Brain. Narnar TV is
Oh.
back, ready to press Starfall. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the Professions and Court of Stars thing. That's going to be a pain.
It's a pain in the ass.
Agitar, Juniper, and Vivoker pro tip. While in Dracthyr form, if you use your Headless Horseman's Hearthstone, you look really pog. Cool. Another evoker tip is it is a throughput loss to not have the thing turn you out of evoker form out of combat, because your visage heals your ally, gives your allies a HP regen. So if your evoker is not turning into a human out of combat in M+, they're inting.
Do they hate you?
But they are also looking cooler, so it's tough.
But do they hate you?
That is the question.
No.
All right, speaking of questions, our first one comes from Kenny Cuban in Twitch chat, who says, every time I log in, I get overwhelmed by reading the new talent system and that many options to pick. How can I beat that and start enjoying the game? Interesting. Yeah, I would say that like the talent tree, especially like when you first are looking at it and you have like 60 points to spend on your character, that it is pretty overwhelming to look through. I would say just like slap on either the starter build or a Wowhead build, put your abilities on your bars, and anytime you see a proc or a buff or something, try and read it, see what it does, go find it in your talent tree, but don't worry about like picking different stuff on your builds until you're comfortable with just an easy build, a starter build of some kind.
I actually
Yeah.
was gonna say that you literally just slamming on the starter build and learning how to play the spec first and foremost, and then learning like what all of the talents do and how they interact with the kit later on is definitely gonna be something that's good for like a novice player.
Yeah, I'd say target dummies are also very helpful. So if you just start out, just slap the target dummy and figure stuff out one at a time. And yeah, just copy one of those Wildhead builds.
Yeah, or the dorky YouTube guide builds, those
Yep,
their
I
talent
got
builds
you.
and all those. Check those out. All right, next question comes from Mac in Discord, who says, what's everyone's favorite and least favorite dungeon of the initial 8 now that they're all live, and why is it not Halls of Infusion? I think my least favorite's been just Brackentide, because just those first few pulls, like getting feared, pulling extra mobs, getting the disease stacking up. I've had been in a group without a disease dispel, and you're just waiting 30 seconds for it to fall off before you pull the next pull. That dungeon has been my least favorite so far. Favorite, I think, I would say Algathar, but actually, I didn't mind Halls of Infusion. I didn't mind that dungeon at all. I didn't find it to be as bad as the others. Maybe that's just because most of the stuff wasn't actually threatening in there yet. But yeah, I would say Algathar. I think Algathar is my favorite. How about you, Tettles? What about you?
I mean, obviously, I think that Algathar is my favorite, but I don't think that Algathar is my favorite from M0 experience. Like, it's, I think that M0 experience, it kind of felt some of the other dungeons. I like Ruby Life Pools, I guess, from M0 experience because it's the shortest.
Dorky, how about you? Any favorite, least favorite dungeon? Anything specific you want to call out?
I would say I would like to enjoy No Code, but yeah, it's probably gonna have to be Algafars or Ruby Life Pool. Actually, Ruby Life Pool. I would definitely say Ruby Life Pool.
Yeah,
But least
I'm also
favorite, though,
hopeful for
probably
Knockout.
also Bracken.
Yeah.
I'm definitely on the anti-Bracken.
Brackentide College is, it's just so unfun.
Yeah, I agree. Bracken's my least favorite as well, and I actually liked Naku the best on Mythic 0 because it's just kind of fun to just like fly in with full talents and nuke a pack, and then fly to the next pack, nuke a pack, and then it was also pretty funny to watch my guildies learn about the last area where you can't fly.
Yeah.
Watch them struggle with like getting on their other mount.
They
and
really have. Like early in beta, you would get like whirlwinded to a certain point, but now you just get like hard stunned out of the air. Yeah.
Dude, the first time I zoned into Knockhut in like a normal whenever I was leveling, 4 out of my 5 group, I was the one who did it, walked to the first boss on Dragon Ride. They literally just walked across the zone to the first boss.
Wow. That is cool.
if you like fail your dragon riding in that and one of those transitions to the next areas, you have to walk, and it is a long walk of shame.
I Yes, it is very far.
All right, next question comes from Theun in Discord, who says, do you think splitting the dungeons up from Season 1 to Season 2 will let them make bigger changes to some of the dungeons we won't see this season? I can't tell if I just don't like Brackentide Hollow, or if it's a dungeon that needs a lot more iteration to bring it in line with the current Season 1 dungeons. Also, please remove the disease dispel, TY.
Amen.
Yeah, or I just think make it like less hugely impactful to not have. I mean, in theory, people have been defending the like not having these dungeons in the first season with the like, oh, it lets them keep it in the workshop for longer, so it can come out more tuned or whatever when it's actually an M+ dungeon. In practice, I do think it's pretty likely that most of the current M0, like the Season 2 dungeons, will probably not see too sweeping of changes between now and when they become M+ dungeons. Especially if there are, I think if there are, they're likely to happen either at the start of Season 2 or right in these first 2 weeks. But I don't think like during Season 1, maybe in the PTR cycle, there'll be a little bit of iteration on them. But I think they're probably pretty close to good to go as they are now, is their plan.
When did beta come out?
Beta
came out
July?
Like May, right?
July.
Oh, okay. So it's way later than I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, they did some really
There's
sweeping
alpha
changes
in July. Yeah.
They did some really sweeping changes to the dungeons. It's from July until now. It's just like a question. Like they have the time. It's more just like I don't know if they're gonna have the data to know like what's problematic.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier in the show a lot more, but I think they're gonna have like 1/10 of the feedback as they did for the other 4 dungeons in this pool for Season 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Brackentide complaints are probably like I've seen them pretty loudly on like Reddit and Twitter as well over the last couple of days. So maybe it's not just like a M+ testers thing. Maybe that's something that like even in M0s everybody's seeing that right now, and that might get back to them. I don't know. We'll see.
It's so difficult to tell what's exactly going to be a problem though, right? In M+ versus M0s.
I mean, do you guys see it as just like a numbers problem, or do you guys see it as like more like a design problem? Because I'm not even talking about numbers right now. I just feel like design wise, these dungeons have problems.
I mean, I think that the Brackentide, like I think that there are that disease could be a lot less deadly. Like if that disease was just like 10% as impactful as it currently is, it could be fine. Maybe 20%, 25%. Like I think it needs a huge tone down in how much it matters whether or not you can clear it or not. But the other mechanics in that dungeon, I don't know. I do think a lot of them are numbers as well. Like usually, I think most things there are numbers fixes. There's only a few things where it's like fundamental mechanics that are the problem.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that's like criminally weird, like one shots and stuff like that. I do think the design of the disease is like pretty annoying, but it could be tuned to not be relevant.
I mean, I think you could get to the point where it's like relevant and you always dispel it if you have a disease dispel, but you're not like dead if you get an extra one in your group type thing. Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know enough about the dungeons yet for the Season 2 pool to really say all the design, but there probably is some design stuff that is going to be a problem, just like seeing the big picture of it. I do think though that a lot of the trash should be cut, or at least the dungeon should be made shorter in some way.
Brackentide is just too fucking long, man.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix. I mean, I guess they could just cut down some of the, like take some of the packs out of the different places and cut some of the packs from the first area and between the first and second bosses on both sides, that kind of thing. And and before the last boss as well, they could cut out some of the mobs there. Yeah. That could be a good thing too. I don't know. I agree with you, Charles, that like specifics are not something I'm super sure about in that place as well. Just kind of a general vibe of hoping for some things to change. Anyway.
Also, one thing: are you guys saying Brackentide or Brackenhide?
Oh, which one is it?
Brackenhide.
Is Brackenhide? I've been saying Brackentide.
That's what I thought, but
it is Brackenhide.
I thought it was Brackenhide, but he kept saying Brackentide, so I thought that I was wrong.
Ha.
Oh,
why is it Brackenhide? Isn't it right next to the water? Isn't there a tide there? That's so messed up.
That's true.
You're right, TY. Brackenhide. Yeah. This expansion has some pronunciation challenges as well. Valdrassus. There's spelling challenge too.
Well, how do you pronounce the plains?
Onaran Plains.
Onaran. Okay.
How you guys been doing it? I'm sure that they say it in a cutscene somewhere, but I skipped all of those, so I don't know.
I just
Actually, I just call it Nocked.
Ohana Plains. Just commit to
It's
being
actually
wrong.
no good.
It's no
Is
food.
it?
No Kudian. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, you're right. I did hear an NPC say no cood. Damn.
Yeah.
Some good tips. Damn, we should have used these for future tip of the weeks.
yeah. We gotta make sure we're speaking the
Write
right
that down.
terms.
Yeah, write that down. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Dorky. Again, people can check you out on twitch.tv/Dorky, YouTube Dorky, and the GGY YouTube as well. Yeah, thanks for coming on. We won't keep everybody too much longer. Of course, everybody's got alts to level and M0s to be doing, although I understand some of us have been doing those during this very episode as well, so not
Who would
much.
do that?
Who would ever do that?
But yeah, thanks for coming on the show. We got another show coming next week, and then we will be taking the following few weeks off in all likelihood. So hope everybody's been having a good Dragonflight, and yeah, see you guys next week. Later.
Thank you guys for having me.
Later.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.